What's the best and worst parts about owning your own fishery?
For me, it was the whole natural element. It wasn't about the fishing, it was more about the whole package. And to make something and turn something that had really kind of fallen into disrepair, for want of better, the passion had left it, and to be able to go in there and have almost a blank canvas to some degree, and planting the trees and you know, everything that went with it, the netting, the fish farming, meeting all these different people, because it was day-ticket water initially and people came from literally all over. You know, even in Europe we got to be very well known as a fishery. You know, we had some very big fish, we had a management plan that made sure the fish were growing healthy and things like that. So so the good thing was just, and there should have been, and because we'll bounce back onto the bad things, you know, it was perfection. It was, you know, you're one in nature. You could go fishing when you wanted. We had a stretch of river there, so I love grayling fishing as well. So we caught some cracking grayling on that. And it was, I suppose, the start of this journey as well. So there's a whole plethora of different things that I would associate with, which was good to owning a fishery. The bad thing was, unfortunately, people. You know, the lack of respect we saw over years, or something that was so passionate. It wasn't some big money-making machine, you know, and we had all kinds of, you know, I won't spoil the flavour of this conversation, but, you know, they were difficult times when you get to get into the police involved with some situations. So, unfortunately, there's that. But running alongside it, and I suppose the irony to all this is, you know, why I'm here today is, you know, I had a big fish kill, and that's probably one of the most devastating things to ever have happened to me, full stop. To find all these fish dying, and the realisation is, well, I was part of that problem by polluting the water and some of the things that were going on, unintentionally, but perhaps naively, I suppose. So that was a devastating thing to, you know, to literally build a funeral parlour of 180 carp and to burn them. Was, you know, an emotional thing.
Can we sort of elaborate a bit on that? Because obviously you've just said you've had the dream, you've gone down there, you bought the fishery, and then over a period of time you had the fish kill. Did you find out what caused the fish kill, or?
We got CFAS involved, EA involved. I did everything as you could by the book, but unfortunately there is little kind of research done on some of these fish kills, and they're happening all the time. And really, ultimately, I learned very quickly after this, because I came in off, I was just Joe Blow. I'd walked in off the straight and bought a fishery, and I thought it would all look after itself. It was wonderful. You know, I didn't appreciate it was like having this big fish tank, and you had to take care of everything on the banks. But the ultimate thing is, a good fishery manager is all about water quality. And you know, the fact is that I didn't regulate the bait in any way, shape or form. So I had I had one of my lakes was a trout lake, so we were piling in trout pellet, which is really, really bad for coarse fishing. The huge volume we were putting in there, we didn't know. We just thought fish. I didn't know, you know, can't have a digestive tract. They can't have any oil. You know, pellet is not anything. Pellet with a 15% oil content plus is negative for them. And then, you know, you're seeing all these different baits and boilies and particles, and you know, you can imagine getting a washing bowl of it and pouring it all in, and you know, because we were getting really popular, you know, we were getting about 1/4 ton a week over the 3 lakes, was of totally uncontrolled food, which I thought was food going in. There was no regulation in the bait industry, and you know, very much we were guilty of naively, you know, really screwing with the biomass by basically feeding stuff that we never really were in control of. I mean, and the naivety of it, you think about it, we're probably as an industry the only area in looking after animals, so if you want to call it farming or husbandry or whatever you want to call it, where we're not in control of the food. You know, would you go up to
livestock, all over livestock?
Yeah,
it's controlled, isn't it?
Everything is regulated, and I think personally, I'm a firm believer that our bait industry should be totally regulated, like the koi market and things like that. And I think it will be. You know, certainly where there is more and more water quality problems every year, and a lot of it is being attributed to all of these different baits, and nobody knows the true ingredients. There's, you know, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but there's good baits out there, and there's probably going to be bad baits out there. And certainly some of the stuff I've seen on the market, which has got zero, you know, nutritional value, it doesn't break down and doesn't feed the biomass and things like that. With the amount of bait we're using in the modern kind of sport, you think back in the day it was a couple of bits of bread and some cheese and a cube of luncheon meat kind of thing, and you know that, you know, we've got small waters where we've got huge volumes of baits going in without being regulated, and not regulated, ironically I suppose, by the farmer, being the fishery owner, fishery management. Are they actually really thinking about, you know, what the fish are doing, or how it's affecting their water quality?
Okay, well, to follow on from that, how did Pallatrax, the company, form?
Well, basically, I sat back as soon as I had that kill and said, what can I do to never ever have that happen again? And you know, my experience was growing. I was meeting more people, and basically, I didn't want to become kind of this disciplinarian kind of figure, but I developed a bait company, so to become a management tool. So you come to the fishery. We could offer you a superior bait, and when you used it, you were catching a lot of fish because the fish had enabled it and understood it as a food source. So you were on with a good shout of catching, and for me it was perfect because you were actually there feeding, you know, the fish, but also the fish weren't on the bait for, you know, they were full in essence. The biomass would then thrive on it, so it was almost like fertilising. So it was a totally, as far as I could, sort of win-win situation, a win-win to. You know, I didn't ban everybody's bait or anything like that, but the fact is, because we were all catching on the bait, you know, the angler was quite receptive to saying, well, I'm up for that as well. And so it was genuinely designed not to do what it's now doing, and not to have taken me even where I am today with the company, but it was designed purely as a fishery management tool where I knew the ingredients, I knew, because we were making it all, we were sourcing it all, we knew everything about the bait, and people were using it, and I think one of the reasons Pallatrax became so popular because the catch rate and consistency of catching on these. And what happened then is people would go back to their own fisheries, and that's how it kind of organically grew. But the whole point of it, Pallatrax started, which was, and Pallatrax is Pallington Lake Attraction Baits. You know, that's why, you know, that's where the name came from. It's a made-up name in essence.
But it all started from that fish kill,
It all started
really.
from, unfortunately, that fish kill, and we are where we are.